That'd be a very distracting meeting having that go out the whole time. Yeah.
Everything goes south though.
Oh, I was gonna look.
Right down, didn't we?
Are your kids home? Are they both at home?
So we're leaving around now to go to Ninja. I told Alex, I'm like, use your judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And talk to us for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's gotten brighter.
It doesn't usually be from the north. It usually comes in southwest.
What's going on?
So we'll see. Yeah.
I assume the lake's gonna rise.
Oh no. We went out to the scenic viewing area, sandpaper. The water's like up to the gate almost. There's a little distance, but it's just
Call the July 15th, 2024 Polk City Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Just an announcement, we have had some inclement weather and we're monitoring that. If we should have to leave or anything, we'll be heading over to the almost finished City Hall. So first inhabitants, so hopefully we don't do that. So roll call.
Triplett,
Here.
Vogel,
Here.
Olfest,
Here.
Prignitz,
Here.
Sires,
Here.
Hankins,
Here.
Bowersox is absent.
All right. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
I'll motion we approve the agenda as written.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4, approval of P&Z Commission meeting minutes for June 17th, 2024. Move to approve. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item 5, Sunrise Ridge preliminary plat. Is there a developer report? The podium is kind of there. You want to state your name and address?
Dean Roger with CDA, 4121 Northwest Urbandale Drive. Here on behalf of Rock Equity Holdings, Corey Cox is also here tonight. So you guys are familiar with this, just went through the rezoning a month or two ago. This is the property, this just gives you the vicinity map of Big Creek Ridge, Monarch Crossing, and the Sleep property. So this is the preliminary plat of all that. I'm gonna put it north up, so it's a little easier to see there. It's a total of 54 acres. This is 36.6 acres of R1A, 65-foot minimum lots. In the south, 21 acres is just an outlot. These guys are just buying the north 36. So this is just an outlot, but we showed it on the entire preliminary plat so you can see, you know, how that could work in the future and where the street connections will be in the future. The one item, I think it was in the notes, is block length waiver. So maximum block length per code is 1320 feet. We're a little above that, 1439 feet. So it's approximately 100 yards further away. And that's because we're tying into the only access point we have for Monarch, which is, you know, that 1,400 feet south of Northside Drive. So that's our only connection point available. So we just ran that straight across. That's why we're showing this, so you guys can see that that connection point's gonna happen when that happens to the south. And we've got a lot of interconnectivity in our project. We've got, you know, 2 or 3 living streets here. We've got 2 access points. So we've got really good connectivity in here. There's only 1 cul-de-sac. So that was the one request that was in the notes. Phase 1 is up in this northwest corner, 30 lots maximum for fire code. So that's pretty much it. Got to answer questions now or later.
Is there an engineer report?
Yeah, so for the commission's consideration, just kind of following up on Dean's information. Preliminary plat appears to be in substantial conformance with the R1A zoning district. Dean mentioned that north-south future street connection into the Outlot V. Outlot V is going to contain the existing homestead for the Schlief property. And then the preliminary plat also shows staging of that driveway during the various phases of the project. This preliminary plat shows sanitary sewer easements along the west property line to accommodate the future northeast trunk sewer, as well as a trail outlot for that shared trail between this proposed subdivision and the Monarch Crossing subdivision to the west. Our recommendation is that you approve this preliminary plat subject to city staff negotiating and then there being a signed development agreement defining several responsibilities that the developer has prior to approval of any construction drawings for this contained within this preliminary plat. And then one other item would be that the developer has proposed fee in lieu of parkland dedication due to this property's proximity to the future regional park, and staff is in concurrence with that proposal.
How far away is the regional park?
It would be, the regional park lies almost directly, or the connection to the regional park lies almost directly north of Monarch Crossing. So the property directly to the west, and then there's a short stretch of outlot that will have a trail in it, and then it goes up through Big Creek Commons. So I would say it's approximately the same distance from the connection as Big Creek Ridge was to the west. That smaller, or where the subdivision that had 23 single-family lots in it, right next to the existing cemetery. These two properties are about equidistant from that connection.
I have about 0.2 miles.
Thanks.
And I have a question regarding the trail access from this plat. You had mentioned that showing on the drawing, and I was having difficulty finding that. Where is that located? If you can kind of reference some lot numbers, perhaps. Oh, and we're getting the diagram held back up once again.
So this is the north-south future trail here, and we're making a connection right next to the detention pond here.
So to me, that looks like a sidewalk, not a trail.
Yeah, it's a sidewalk connection to the trail. So this is going to be a future 10-foot trail here, and this is just a sidewalk connection for the neighborhood to get access to that. And there'll obviously be another one in the future at Arbor Avenue.
So 105 lots, I'm thrilled that that's coming in here. For us, for a city like Oak City, this is a large development, and we appreciate that. Without having a park in the neighborhood and understand the philosophy behind that, and the staff is in agreement with that. To me, we want to make access from this area to that regional park as easy as possible via many modes of transportation. And, if you're on a skateboard, if you're on a bicycle, you are not supposed to use sidewalks. That's etiquette. It's not a law by any means, but that is something you aren't supposed to be doing. And as I would look at with 105 lots and the rec trail being that close, it ought to be easier than having to dismount, get off your board, whatever, walk around lot 105, and then get back out onto Northeast 14th Place and remount. And to me, that could be easily solved by incorporating this development into the rec trail system. But by just that short little connector along the north side of lot 105.
So you're basically saying you would like this connection to be like 6 or 8 foot wide or
Yeah,
whatever.
to be widened and taken all of the way to the street curb with a cutout at the curb.
To 14th
Correct.
to here. I mean, I guess our theory was everything in here is the standard 5 foot sidewalk. So nobody's gonna be going from a trail to a sidewalk back to a trail. So it was just, these are all 5 foot, so this is 5 foot, and then you get hit the trail, and then you're on the trail. So I mean, that was our theory, I guess. But
Currently we have many connections like that in our community, in Bridgeview 1, Bridgeview 2, further north in Lost Lakes. We have connections that strictly go from what would be more of what I would call a corridor trail to what I would call a community feeder into that trail. That's something that's pretty common in our community. It's a way to give access from local neighborhoods into the trail system. But what's different about this particular setup is there is no park within the development itself, making access to that trail all the more important.
yeah, I mean, we're not talking about a lot here, I guess. I mean, if it's this section, you want to make it whatever, 6 or 8 foot.
10 feet.
10 feet, that's fine. I mean, that's not a big deal. That's what we're talking about.
Does staff have any opinion on something like that? I'm just out of curiosity.
Travis, do you want to chime in? I'm fine with that recommendation. I just would like to hear from you.
Yeah, I would agree. What I would say is, if we're going to convert that to a 10-foot trail, I would not want to see it essentially, so where we're coming along the north side of 105, I would not want to see it intersect directly with the curb. What I would suggest is converting that little jog to the sidewalk ramp there at the intersection of 14th and Daybreak to a 10-foot, so that we don't have 2 separate ramps and that we don't create a mid-block crossing, which Polk City Code explicitly disallows.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean,
So take it all the way up to the front of outlot W, or the north edge of outlot W, I think is what he's saying.
No, I'm talking the ramp there right in front of 105,
Oh, okay, perfect, yes.
right at that intersection.
Yeah.
yeah. So you're talking about building another 30 feet, 10 foot wide.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
So my only comment,
Yeah, I was just wondering what kind of skateboard you had.
anymore you see lots of motor rides and whatnot.
Any public comment? No. Any other questions or clarification needed?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to council approval of the preliminary plat review for Sunrise Ridge, subject to staff and engineers' comments dated July 15th, 2024. Also recommending that the the block length ordinance for this development have the exception granted. And also that the drawings be modified around lot 105 so that what is shown as a sidewalk going from the rec trail to the west be converted to a rec trail along the west side, north side, and partial east side of lot 105, bringing it into the intersection of Northeast 14th Place and Daybreak Avenue.
Roll call?
Prignitz,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Olfest,
Yes.
and Vogel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item passes. Before we go on, I have a question about drawings. We used to get big drawings, even if they weren't delivered to us, at least when we got here. We were able to look at them a little better when we're going through this, because, I mean, I print them off. But, I mean, there's
Okay.
66 pages here.
Okay,
We get this every time.
we haven't given you larger drawings at the
Yeah,
previous meeting?
we haven't had them for a while.
Okay, well, I have to say Jenny's gone and we're just trying to get by until she gets back. So, we'll make sure that we have some
That's
available
nice.
to you at
Thank
the
you.
next meeting.
We didn't have them when Jenny was here either last month.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
but I didn't know if there's a new policy or something.
no, we will work on that.
We appreciate it. All right, item 6, Big Creek Commons amended preliminary plat. Is there a developer report on the item? State your name and address, please.
Tom Whitman, representing Williams Knapp LC, 5,000 West Town Parkway, West Des Moines. So you've seen this preliminary plat before, and since that time, we purchased the Miller property here that's on the west side of 7th Street and rezoned that. And this plat contains 199 lots. And in this first phase, we're looking at developing here along 7th Street and then turning the corner on Springfield Drive, basically this area shaded in this reddish color. 72 lots. On the west side of 7th Street, those lots are a little over 70 feet wide, as are these. And then these lots, I believe, are in that 66-foot width. Then when we get on Springfield, we're jumping up to 80-foot lots where we've got better depth. Lots that back up to the park. And we're pretty excited about this plan. With this, we'd be dedicating some outlots to the city for trail connections. One here that in the southeast corner of this development up into the park. Those two outlots are here and here. They're 30 feet wide for the trail. And then also outlots here on the north, 30-foot wide outlots that would allow that continuation to the high tensile. Package has already started construction, or will soon here on this water main extension in 7th Street. Before they do that, they're going to put in some sanitary sewer here. It was the deepest utility. And then we'll be pulling off water services for those residential lots. We have signed a development agreement with the city that includes various elements of the development and mass grading and so on and so forth. I think I'll just leave it at that for now. If I can answer any questions you have.
What's the zoning? Is this R1? Or is it different? R1, R1A, and
I believe we just have a small piece of R1 here. This is R1A, and all of this is R1A.
okay. And what's the width we need for an R1A?
65 foot.
65.
Mhm.
Okay. So we're okay on all our widths. But R1 is 80.
Correct.
Okay.
If you could refresh my memory, what is outlot Y? That's at the junction of Springfield and 7th.
Oh, yeah.
probably always been there, but I don't remember.
There's some wetland there
Okay.
that we're leaving alone. Yeah, yeah, we checked into the cost of mitigating that, and it seemed to be more expensive than developing the lot.
So who will own that?
I don't believe it's a city, but, let me check. Typically, we do that as part of a homeowners association. But I don't want to speak out of turn here. I'd have to get back to the city.
And I would concur on that, Tom. Typically, wetland protection or detention basins will be owned and managed by the HOA. That's typical city practice. So unless you guys are looking to deviate from that.
Travis, do you have any report on your end?
I mean, Tom covered a lot of it. This amended preliminary plat adds 8 single-family lots in that 609 East Northside Drive area, as well as some adjustments to the R1A widths that wouldn't have been shown on the previous preliminary plat. And then one item I did want to highlight for the commission is the revised staging plan as part of this preliminary plat. As Tom mentioned, the revised preliminary plat shows construction off of Northside Drive in 2 separate plats. The previous version did not show it that way. And so as part of the development agreement that the city and the developer has signed, NAP will be limited to 81 single-family homes off of West Springfield Drive. The reason we selected 81 homes is that simulates what in our mind is quote unquote the worst case scenario that Polk City currently has, which is Tradition Drive, which has 20 something single family homes off of it, and then the golf course at the end. So the 81 single family homes generates the same number of trips that we would expect from Tradition Drive. And since this is an interim condition, that's how we arrived at that number. The other stipulation as part of those 81 lots is NAP, as they enter into purchase agreements and as they close on lots, every time they enter into the 10th purchase agreement or close on the 10th lot, they will be required to notify the building official so that we can monitor those lot sales to make sure that we don't get more than those 81 lots into before East Vista Lake Avenue is punched through.
What we're doing here is essentially following the sanitary sewer. We can only plat about, I'm going to say about a dozen lots by extending sanitary sewer along Vista Lake Avenue before we run out of depth. Then we need to come down to the south and work our way uphill. So do this plat, probably do this next, and then make the connection, and then come back and do this.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Question on the trail up there on the north side, is that where the road comes in, then we separate off 2 lots and then the trail comes through?
Right. I believe the location for that had something to do with the section line through here. Travis, can you?
Yeah, so the county has acquired land to the north of the city limits right along that section line. And per Polk City code, we try to keep streets off of section lines so that it doesn't become a question of whose responsibility is it for constructing those streets. So essentially what we did is we moved that street so that it is fully on a parcel to the north, and then we placed that outlot where the county needed it to be to make our connection to that.
Any public comment on the item?
The groups that aren't doing parkland dedication, is there a set price the city of Polk City has per acre or something like that?
Can we get your name and address?
Dean Court, Polk City. Is there a set price for parkland in lieu of putting a park in?
Parkland dedication is based off of what we establish as fair market value. So we typically determine that cost based on what the developer paid for the abutting property or the property in question. Travis, is that how you, isn't that how we calculate parkland dedication?
So it is, the Polk City Municipal Code requires it as fair market value of the land plus the cost to simulate improvement. So that would be seeding as well. And then 100 feet of frontage to a street. So that would be sidewalk. And there's a couple of other things that can be added to that parkland dedication. And I would say typically, yes, Chelsea, generally speaking, we use the fair market value of the land. And then we dictate those other things on a case by case basis.
Any other public comment? Commission questions, concerns?
Yep, Justin, before you ask for a motion, I will say one other thing that I forgot to mention is this approval in our memo reads that it's subject to a development agreement, but as Tom mentioned, that was approved at the last council meeting. So any motion should be subject to items 1, 2, and 4, but should exclude 3 under our recommendations.
Your motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend to council approval of the amended preliminary plat review for Big Creek Commons, subject to city staff and engineer comments dated July 15th, 2024, with the caveat that recommendation number 3 has already been completed.
Second.
Roll call?
Olfest,
Yes.
Prignitz, Sires,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes. Item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, Allure at Sailorville rezoning petition from A1 to C2, R3, and R2A. Developer report? State your name and address, please.
Good evening, Chair and members of the commission. My name is David Dents, Fish Engineering, 3501, 104th Street, Riverdale. As stated, we're here for Allure Development. Timbercrest Homes LLC is the client. We're looking to do a simple rezone here that is in conformance with your land use plan. I apologize, I don't have a big drawing. I didn't know I needed one, but I do have a couple small ones if you don't have them.
I'm fine.
So as you can see here, we are following with the current land use plan, doing about 2 acres of commercial up next to Highway 415. And then over on the east side, we got 3 more 2-acre commercial lots there. We have some high density apartment ground, about 303 units, 330 units we're proposing with 330 garages. And then some duplex or row houses along here for the approximately 3.44 acres of townhomes. And that's basically a rough overall concept plan there. We did concept the piece to the south, as you can see. Although we do not own that ground at this time, it is concepted out. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
It's pretty much just the configuration of where the zoning was. correct?
Yes,
And
pretty close. Yeah.
Pretty much the same acreage of each as it was in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I don't think, comp plan spelled out the acreages. If you look at Snyder's staff report, I think they have a little exhibit of the
Right.
land use plan.
Yeah.
I think there's a little strip here that we're dedicating for some parkland or
Nice.
like a dog park or this or that for the multifamily.
Good.
And then there's a strip of the row homes that go up to the north, just a little bit.
City engineer report.
So as mentioned and kind of alluded to there, this rezoning does meet the general intent of the future land use plan and roughly mirrors the acreage that's shown in that future land use plan. So as part of the commission's recommendation and action tonight, we would ask for two separate recommendations. The first being an amendment to the comprehensive plan. Although these rezonings match the general intent, the shapes don't quite match. So we would suggest that you amend or that you recommend amendment of that comprehensive plan to match the proposed shapes. Essentially, the high density and the commercial on the north would connect to Highway 415, and the commercial ends up a little bit narrower but longer on the west side of that connection. That's more or less the general change, but there is some line cleanup otherwise. All of the petitions are valid, meeting the criteria for the 50% consent in the 250 foot buffer area. You will notice that all of these rezonings abut several properties that lie outside of Polk City corporate limits. So those areas have been excluded from those consenting percentages, as well as any publicly owned property has been excluded. So that would be Highway 415 right-of-way, as well as the state of Iowa owns that detention basin wetland mitigation area from the construction of Highway 415. We would recommend approval, or these rezonings seem in general conformance with the future land use plan, and we would recommend P&Z's approval of both the comprehensive plan amendment and the rezonings.
Any public comment? No. Commission, any questions or clarification?
Just a quick question for Travis and staff. Should a motion be made on the rezonings? Would you prefer 4 motions for the rezonings, or can that be handled in 1 motion?
I think you need to have separate motions.
Okay.
Travis, do you agree with that?
I would agree, particularly if there are concerns about one rezoning. We want to make sure that we can act appropriately or make modifications as needed.
I'll just say I came into tonight with some concerns, and having the concept help me work through those. And so just a comment for staff, it would be really nice for rezonings in the future if we could have a concept of how it will look after the rezoning occurs with that application.
And I apologize for that. I flat out forgot to combine it into the PDF I sent Mary. So we did revise it this morning, but I realize that's pretty late notice. So that's noted, and we'll make sure those concepts are included with the rezoning in the future.
Yeah, I think I can speak for several commissioners when I say we're a little sensitive about decreasing the number of acreage of commercial property or potential commercial property in Polk City. And so seeing the drawing and see how things might be working out helps understand how some of those decisions got made. And then just another quick question for staff. Would there be any hope in the future of the intersection of Highway 415 and Northwest 44th Street being made into a 4-way intersection instead of a 3-way intersection, allowing access to this property at that point?
Yes, possibly. We would have to work with the city of Ankeny on that project. as well as Polk County.
Yeah.
So it's a number of government
Like the
entities
state,
working
probably.
together. Yes, but we
And-
have had those discussions and we do know it's an issue.
Okay, because that would really change the value of the commercial property. It
Mhm.
might even potentially change how much commercial they might want to have here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say we worked on several concepts with city staff, and we looked at that option at one point, but working with the city engineer, I think we derived it the further location to the south with the connection point. And then that also explains why the C2 district to the north end is a little bit narrower than what's on the land use plan, because we have that connection up through there and it's kind of left the unusable piece, which kind of tied in with the twin homes.
So that connection you just referenced on the north end, is that where sewer comes into the property?
This property is currently not serviced by sanitary sewer.
Or, yeah.
That is something that we are going to need to work out with the development. Travis, do you know where the connection to sanitary sewer would be?
It's just east of Northwest Lake Drive. I don't have the exhibits in front of me, but it's a few hundred feet east of that intersection further to the west. It would be trenchlessly bored across Highway 415, where there'd be a manhole set on the southern side of Highway 415, and then we would service this property by extending sewer along Highway 415.
So where the big gully is to the west, right?
Correct. Yes. So if you know where the U.S. Army Corps Dam is located north of Highway 415, the developer has already approached the Corps about boring sanitary sewer through that dam in association with the Antler Ridge development.
I'll just point out, I believe the developer that owns this ground is also in control of some of that other ground that's dealing with that sewer, so it shouldn't be a holdup. They're in control of that.
Okay. With that said, the small piece, the 2 acres of commercial up on the north end, would that potentially then be developed with commercial property to the west into a larger parcel?
There's a possibility of that.
Any other questions?
As far as the order of things, can we amend the comp plan last, or would you like that first?
I think we would like that first because that essentially allows the rezoning to take place.
Okay, perfect. I'll make a motion that we recommend to council amending the comprehensive plan for the area called Allure at Saylorville in conjunction with some diagrams that are listed under project number 230240. That would, in essence, change the boundaries between C2, R3, and R2A from what is referenced in the current comprehensive plan.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Olfest,
Yes.
Prignitz, Sire,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplet,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to council approval of a rezoning for Allure at Saylorville Lake of 2.06 acres from A1 to C2 as referenced in project diagrams 230 to 40.
Roll call.
Prignitz,
Yes.
Sires,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplets,
Yes.
Olfest.
Yes.
I make a motion that we recommend to council approval of the rezoning for Allure at Saberville for 17.86 acres from A1 to R3 per diagrams referenced in 230 to 40.
Roll call?
Pregnance,
Yes.
Sayers,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett,
Yes.
Olfest.
Yes.
I make a motion that we recommend to council approval of a rezoning for Allure at Saylorville for 6.25 acres from A1 to C2 as referenced in diagrams 230 to 40.
Second.
Sorry.
Roll call?
Olfest,
Yes.
Pregnance, Sayers,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
and Triplett.
And I recommend to council approval of the rezoning for Allure at Saylorville for 3.44 acres from A1 to R2A as referenced in diagram 230 to 40.
Second.
Roll call?
Olfest,
Yes.
Pregnance, Sayers,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Triplett.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you're good. We're done. That's 5.
All right, item number 8, discussion on Titan storage. Developer report. State your name and address, please.
Good evening, Doug Mandernack from Civil Design Advantage, 4121 Northwest Urbandale Drive in Urbandale. This for property here, located on the Big Tree Commons Plat 1, Lot 1. It's next to the early learning, the Lakes Early Learning Center and north of Big Creek Elementary with some single family to the east. 2 weeks ago, we had met with city staff to discuss our proposed development on here for mini storage. During that discussion, it was brought up that there is let me back up on the plat, it shows a 30-foot setback, and during that discussion, we were told there's a 50-foot setback on this for the zoning that would need to be met on that. It was kind of a shock to us at that point and kind of really impedes the development of our layout on that property. One of the things that we discussed on that is a type C buffer. Within that is a 6-foot tall fence. And we're able to do that kind of with a building, so that's why we're asking for the limited setbacks on that the back of the building could act as a fence, because there would be no overhead doors towards the street, and there's minimal traffic on a storage site. And also with the setbacks, there is a 30-foot setback on our property. We've got the 60-foot right of way, and then a 30-foot setback on the other side of the property. So that would be 120 feet of separation between any structures or buildings in that area. So at that meeting, basically, they said they advised us to meet with planning and zoning and discuss this and see if there's any comments on that. One of the big items was materials. So we did provide you with some color drawings, and we actually have hard samples here for your review also. That, so the stone will be this Rosetta stone. It is a stone product that's screwed to the wall, and then the concealed metal panel fastener will be on top of that, wherever it says the concealed metal panel fastener. I think that's the main point I wanted to make. So I guess Peter Corcoran and Casey here also to add some points to the project.
So Peter Corcoran, 65 Jefferson Winnipeg. We've got 2 different projects that we can do with these. One, we can be very industrial. We've got a facility where we're in an industrial setting in Norwalk, where it might be what you're typically used to seeing with storage, where you see doors, you see everything else. We've since gone back, a lot of towns, we just got approval in Adel, and what we did was to revisit what they look like on the outside. And so this is kind of residential, where this can be set in to blend in with the neighborhood, and upgrade what our materials are. So this concealed fastening material, you're not gonna see any screws, any doors on the outside. This would be kind of your 4 foot and higher. We have color combinations that we can do with it. And then the stone would be 4 foot and down, along with a lot of landscaping that we can do, along with fences that would be in the open areas. Doug mentioned our issue that we are coming up to is a 50-foot buffer, is a landscape buffer. So anything M1 that buffers up to residential requires that. So that's where we're asking, that would take 20 foot away from us on 3 sides and relatively take a 2.5 acre lot and reduce it down to about 1.4 acres of use. What we like to do, we want to blend in, with this being an M1 industrial setting, you could have, the Polk City could see a lot of trucks, traffic there. We don't think that's a great thing for a school to be in that neighborhood. What we like to show is that we offer storage in this area to residents. We don't see a lot of traffic in and out of there daily. You might see 2 to 4 cars daily, more on the weekend, different things like that. We think we're kind of an ideal end user for this lot, for this neighborhood, that the way it is set up.
On the elevations, I see black columns.
Yes.
Or corners. What is that material?
That would be stone.
Okay. Oh, you have two different colors of stone?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it black, or is it like a gray blend?
It could be black. I think there was a picture of what we did in Norwalk. Yeah. No, we're not married to those colors, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. Thanks. Copy that off.
A question I had was regarding detention on the site. I didn't see any here on a preliminary.
We're tackling this issue first, because if we don't get past the buffer, then there's no need. So the site plan will start working on that, but the buffer is where it's either a go or no go type situation for this.
I'm just thinking that the detention could take a whole building out too.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably going to be needed.
We think.
But you touched on traffic. I guess that's the other question I had. There's really no way to guarantee there wouldn't be more traffic, would there be? I mean, there's no limitation on who can rent these units. I mean,
just historical data, I guess, that we see at our other sites. This would be a complete, I kind of glossed over the facility itself. It's going to be completely fenced, cameraed, with lights, and we can restrict access to 10 o'clock to 6 in the morning type thing. So we know who's coming in, who's coming out, and we are getting pictures of everything.
So you don't have an office in there or anything?
We don't. The industry's kind of going to we've talked to other owners, and since COVID, people don't seem to want to talk to anybody. So there's a lot of it go to just get on the internet, do that. We do get calls. For some reason, Iowans, they call us, make sure we're legit, ask 2 questions, and then they go online and fill everything out themselves.
But you're looking for feedback.
Yeah.
At this point, Peter and Doug, I think there's a definite need for storage in this town. I mean, the ones we have are always full, hard to get a new one. My concern is, to me, if I had a home right across the street, I'd be concerned about the view of it. I would, at this point, I'd be rather negative about reducing the amount of buffer to it. I mean, you've done a great job. They're beautiful looking buildings, but I would think a different location close by would be better, my personal view. That's just me.
I kind of agree with that. I think this corridor, at one point, or it's changed on us over time, and now we have the school, the park, the daycare, the residential. I think we talked about this a little bit when we redid our maps, but I think I see a better use for the corner maybe and less intrusive, but.
We brought that up when we met with the city about other options. And the M1, there's not a lot of availability in Polk City.
Not real accessible where we have it, right?
Right.
Not yet, yeah.
And I think there was something northeast of town, but what we found, our business runs better when people can see our facility and can easily stop by and get there.
I have this drawing right here, and I'd like you to walk me through the setbacks, because they're all looking different.
Good. This one does better.
So let me call them out here so
Sure.
everybody can follow.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then you can tell me.
Sure.
If that's okay. It's right along the street there.
Yep, that is currently an 30-foot setback, the way we have that
All right.
set up right there.
And B, same.
Same,
C,
would be 30-foot setback.
at the minimum, because it's not the same all the way along.
Right, because, we just don't put curves on that building.
Okay,
There's a good chunk of it.
so it goes from a minimum of 30 feet up to more.
Mhm.
Okay, plus there's a street there,
Yes,
and then there's a residential lot 2, or is that what is lot B? That's a street?
That's the street, yeah.
Okay, and then so lot 2 is a R1, okay? And then we've got a couple different Ds. What's the minimum D? Is that 30 feet?
Oh, yeah, so that's on the backside, so yeah, that's minimum of 30.
Okay, so.
Actually,
then
that's 40 right there, I'm sorry.
It's 40 feet? And what are the other 3 Ds?
That is for driving, so that's likely to be, my eyes aren't that good, that'd be 65 foot off.
Okay, and then let's go to E.
We're not required to have any, but there's no good neighbor that builds right on a property line, so I think we have 10 foot there.
Okay, and what's the property next to E? What is that zoned and what is it?
I believe it's M1 and a daycare facility.
It's there right now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's a daycare. Where's the playground, do we know, in relationship?
It's in the,
It's a ways
it's in
away.
the back, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so is that an access drive then next to E that goes into the daycare, if I remember right?
It would not go into the daycare. It's just.
No, I'm talking about the daycare lot.
I'm sorry.
Where's the access off the street to the daycare lot? Is it right next to E?
We didn't pull up that.
Okay.
Let's see.
Somewhere. It's farther down.
I think it's farther west.
Here, you've got.
Yeah, it looks to be like
What I'm trying to get at
45,
is
50 feet.
what's happening in the first 50 to 100 feet to the left of E, which is.
If you could see Chelsea's screen.
It's a sidewalk. There's a sidewalk there. Do you want to come look at my map?
I can carry that up there.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it now. Okay.
It's actually a trail up to the ramp.
So, pedestrian sidewalk to the
Okay, so
facility.
Travis says
there's
it's a
parking
trail.
there, right?
And then
Yeah.
along Vista Lake Court, there is a trail there partway through this, and then it turns south to go towards the
Okay.
school property.
And what's the black long thing at the top there? Is that a building?
The black long thing at the
Yeah.
top.
I think it's
Yes.
shadow.
It's a roof of the building.
That's a building.
Yes.
So that's real close to the setback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
You guys do have a right to be concerned about if you were a neighbor. Some of the things, if you do some research, is that they find this to be low impact, light industry, as in not a lot of people there. We've heard from neighbors that are like, this is one of my best neighbors I've ever had. They're never doing anything. The lot that would be, I believe, the residential would be lot 2 across to the east. That is unbuilt right now.
Right.
And the only 2 homes would be 24 and 23 in that area.
But it will be built.
Yeah, I mean, to that point.
Right.
No, but if
I
I,
understand.
but I guess our point, we never asked the city, and maybe Travis can jump in on this. If there was a residential lot right next to an industrial lot, would be safe to say the setback from a house would be 10 foot, and then that Class C buffer would be 50, correct?
So if it's a side yard setback, it would be 8 foot, but corner lots would have whatever the front yard setback is. I'll look and find that, but yeah, it would essentially be the 50 plus whatever the front or side yard setback is for that residential, whatever's applicable.
Our hope is that these streets with, I don't know what it is, maybe 66 right away, 66 foot right away in between us and those residential would be an increased buffer. We're not asking not to do the landscaping or the increased design of it. We're just asking to go from 50 down to 30.
And if we recommended against that and city council so followed that recommendation, you could still build this, but you would lose one of the Ds.
We would likely lose 20% of our facility, as in A's, A, B, and C would all go away. We kind of showed it here with the green lines of what that extra buffer does to us.
Oh, I see.
And so it only leaves the ability for these 4 buildings.
So I guess as a clarification, so that everybody's understanding correctly, what you're suggesting is that you would put a type C buffer in a 30-foot wide buffer easement.
Yes.
Correct.
Plants closer together, taller, things like that.
Yeah, so the diagrams to me look like a fort almost, or I should say the elevation drawings looked almost like a fort or just stone and hard surfaces and not softened at all. And so that was, and so to me, having the additional buffer there made more sense to be able to soften that more with landscaping. But you're saying that you're going to try to squeeze some buffering in there?
No, we'll still do the same amount of required bushes and everything. We want this to look really nice. So we will do the same requirement that is needed for plants and trees along that area, maybe even exceed it, especially right on East Vista Lake. And 2D sometimes doesn't do the buildings justice. NAP vetted us quite a bit for about 4 to 5 weeks, and it took us a little bit of time to explain our project to them for them to get comfortable to the point where they sell us the ground.
And maybe I missed this, but I think you'd mentioned something about a fence of some kind.
Yes.
That's a security fence, or is that the I don't know how to say it, like for the visual effect, or both?
Both.
Okay.
So I think wrought iron is allowed. So it'd be a wrought iron fence, 6 foot tall, and it'd be security and also.
That'd be outside the buffer though, right? Like behind the sidewalk.
Yeah, it'd be right. Actually, we'd have it right up close to the building likely, with maybe a little bit of allowing turnarounds or anything.
Well, I guess that was one of my concerns too, was what Ron was saying. It is a lot of linear wall-looking look to it, and what I consider kind of a residential, even though it is an M1 area. And I really think you're going to lose one building to detention. I really do. I think that's one thing you ought to try to quantify a little bit, is just to say, even if this would approve with what you're asking, but you're going to lose the detention. That's a big site. and there's a lot of water, and it all flows that way.
I guess I had an idea while I was sitting here, and I'll throw it out there, and might be kicking myself afterwards. If we were to come up, and I know which way water's gotta go, but if we build it up and we got that detention to come up to the front, could P&Z see a path where we had a 50-foot buffer along 24 and 23 across the street, but maybe it was lessened where we were across from the school, if that makes any sense?
No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, over here.
So maybe this
Around
one
A.
is where we are like, okay, let's do 50 foot. And we're gonna look at a retention area there. And then this home will likely be built up against that.
Right.
To where this is probably in compliance, but back here it wouldn't be.
Right.
But I don't ever envision a house being built that far back on lot 2. I don't know if that could be a merger of both worlds, or
Think about that a little bit.
So just so I'm clear though, even if we don't approve this and let's say you go ahead, it's the same number of plants, it's the same number of stuff, it's just in a wider space. So for the visual aspect, we're not really gaining anything by restricting that, right? Because it's still the same number, it's just in a shallower space.
In a shallower space, and I mean, it's a valid point that, you know, we also have streets involved, the width of the street. And, you know, this is, we knew this was going to be complicated when we, you know, at one point, it was M1 further west or east on this street. So when we converted it to residential with the regional park, we kind of knew this parcel was going to be difficult to develop. And looking, you know, we aren't Chamber of Commerce people. We let the market dictate what can go where. I certainly, in my own opinion, feel that we have a need for this type of business in our community for all it's worth. I happen to be in the parking of the storage that we have here near the city square and see the lack of traffic that occurs back in that area and think that this would not be a traffic generator, which is, so I do agree from that perspective. So it is a good low impact use for a spot that is going to be difficult to develop. But I just have a hard time getting around the fort-like appearance of the elevation diagrams and how hard it is. And, you know, it almost, in fact, where your signs and stuff are almost look like turrets on the fort, you know, to a certain degree. And so I have a hard time visualizing how that would fit into a residential community. And also I'm currently having a tough time seeing how that would look when it is softened with plantings in front as well, so.
Well, let me give you, I can visualize it.
Yeah.
I've been doing it 55 years, so it's easy for me. This is a low profile building. It's only 8 feet 4 inches high. Is that correct? And plus we have a nice fence. What I'd like to see is a better, more developed conceptual site plan that would show us where the landscaping is, the fence is, sidewalks, whatever, if there are any there. Detention, yeah. And also, I think it would be helpful for you to show us some kind of a perspective drawing that we might see, for instance, from the street, where I think it's got the most visual impact of people coming and going. There's people all on those lots, all drive on that street. And as you're coming into the complex, it would show your signage, but I assume you'd have signage, maybe not. Maybe on your building like you showed.
Yeah.
And how you might show a developed, 5-6 years from now, what it might look like with trees and stuff. And I think you can do more with trees than you can do with shrubs. Because that would take away, you got a 6-foot high fence, you only have 2 feet 4 inches left of building, and that's not much. Particularly in perspective wise, if you do your perspective from sitting like 3 or 4 feet off the ground like you're driving a car. You can do it at 6 feet like you're walking, but that really isn't how you're going to see it. Now, I don't know if you want to put the money into doing that. And I'm not too concerned about the setbacks here because, there's streets on 2 sides, and so there's quite a bit of room there. And I understand you may need to make it work financially too for you. Plus, it's a lot better for our residents to have the extra spaces that they can rent too, So I'm not too concerned about the setbacks, but I think the aesthetics are something that I think we want to see maybe a little bit better. And maybe that would help 2 or 3 people on our P&Z instead of, voting it down right now, or at least carrying it to city council with a lot of suggestions, because they want us to resolve that before they ever get to it.
So as a clarification, the commission's not being asked to act on anything tonight. This is not a formal submittal, but the developer didn't want to push it any further until they knew the concerns, the requirements, and the appetite for alteration of the buffer. So that would be something that is possible, as well as on a formal site plan if the developer wishes to take it to that point. Some of those other concerns could be addressed.
I think just to echo a little bit what Doug was saying, I think being able to see it, visualize it would be helpful. And Travis, a point taken that we may not be at that stage yet. I think if you were asking for a reduction in what was going to be in that buffer, that would cause a lot of concern for me, at least. But if you're looking at the same requirements just in a smaller space, I'm certainly less concerned about that. And from, if I were living in one of the houses that were around there, I have to be honest, I would be more concerned about the light pollution later in the evening and things like that over, what I'm seeing as I'm driving by personally.
There could be a worse neighbor going.
Oh, for sure. So for what that's worth, that would be more of my concern or question rather than, what the aesthetics of the building. I mean, these are not, they're well done buildings, in my opinion.
Travis, I just had a question. Is a type C buffer, if I remember right, 2 rows of trees?
So it's opaque to 6 feet, intermittent obstruction to 20 feet. So it's essentially a 6-foot high, some sort of barrier. So in all honesty, the way that the code is written, by rights, a type C buffer could be a 6-foot solid privacy fence with intermittent trees. Or it could be some sort of 6-foot tall, opaque planting buffer with intermittent trees. So that's the difference. So just as a refresher, a type B is opaque to 3 feet with intermittent up to 20. Type C is 6-foot opaque with intermittent up to 20. And then a type A is just the trees.
Okay.
Do you need a fence? Is it for, okay, so you'll have a code access in, is that correct?
Gates in and out.
So you will have a fence?
Yes.
Okay. I think a big fence would look uglier than.
Well, we only have fence where the building is not at. So only in those openings is where that fence is gonna be.
The building creates a barrier.
Yes, then it's a much prettier thing than having it look like a prison yard or something.
Oh, I got
Not
you.
that that looks that way, but.
Okay. So on A and B, for instance, along the street there, even on C, well, I don't know if it's C or D, what you want to call it there, the fence would actually not be, it would just go between the ends of A and the ends of B.
Correct.
Okay. So the buffer would be open and landscaped. So Travis, we'd have to provide a 6-foot buffer there, or we?
Correct, yes. So the building cannot take the place of the buffer. So it would be 6-foot opaque, whether it be a privacy fence or a 6-foot opaque planted buffer, and then trees spaced intermittently. I think it's 20 foot on center minimum for trees.
Give me an example of a 6-foot opaque buffer.
It would, well, we don't have many of them because we don't have many industrial lots, has been alluded to. Essentially, think of like the stereotypical hedgerow that goes 6 foot tall.
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. Is it's greenery that's 6 foot tall you can't see through, and that's at maturity. So that wouldn't be what would be there day one, but at maturity of those shrubs, which is for shrubs is anywhere from probably 3 to 10 years, that would be the mature height of the proposed plantings.
So it really wouldn't make a lot of difference whether it were 30 feet or 50 feet. Time you have a 6-foot opaque buffer going around the whole place.
And,
And an 8-foot for a building.
and I don't actually find the wall, short sections of the wall being visible as unattractive. You know, they're putting a lot of money in trying to make the wall look attractive. And to me, the sections of foliage intermittently along the wall almost make more sense than a continuous blocking of all of the money that they're pumping into the wall.
Yeah.
That's what we'd like for considerations. The back of this wall looks like a fence. Otherwise, we come with a 6 foot tall cedar fence. It looks worse than the back of the building.
I mean, the wall's not unattractive, it's just too long and too big for me. It needs to be softened.
Yeah, I'd really object to a 6-foot cedar fence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way you're using cedar anymore either. Look at Quick Star down here. They put a cedar fence in and tore it out right away and put a fence in that's gonna last and has no maintenance to it for a long time. I don't think it costs any more, it might even be less, so. Is there any feedback we haven't given you that you guys are looking for?
No, we've looked at this thing from every angle, so we just thought it really made sense in this area. We looked at Polk City as a place that we wanted to do a project in, and talking to people, it's a need up here, and that's where we got discussions with NAP on. So we understand your thing, that's why we're here having a discussion.
Yeah, nope, much appreciated.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion green grass fixes a lot of stuff too. Like it always makes everything look pretty. So would idea of coming back with perspectives of dwellings with further discussion, or would you rather see an actual proposed site plan with this and then vote on it then?
I think a lot of it depends on how much how much you want to invest in that and how
Right.
much risk you want to take. I think you've gotten a lot of feedback. If you want to take the extra step of showing us perspectives before you take the next step to a site plan, that would be, a little safer. But yet I think you have a lot of feedback that you could probably, proceed further as well.
I'm kind of kicking myself because we decided to keep landscaping off of it with the hope that the building was going to be, you would see what the building was and it would look beautiful and the upgraded materials, and that would be the point. So
I think, I'm not hearing a no yet, but I'm not hearing a yes. I'm hearing a maybe if we show enough detail. That's probably the best we can hope for tonight, I think.
I'm saying maybe. I'm probably not even saying maybe, I'm probably saying yes. But I think you ought to have that from all of us, so you should proceed or not. And you've had at least 3 people up here that have some good concerns. So, if they say, yeah, if you do things kind of the way we've discussed tonight, we'd like you to proceed. And I think maybe 2 or 3 of us have kind of said that already. So it's kind of you two guys that have some concerns because there's school and residential properties. So, I guess what they're asking is for you to say, do you want them to go ahead and let's try and see if we can work something here? Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't like the fit on the corridor. Nothing against your product or any of that. Just kind of how I feel about it, but.
Yeah, I guess if you had, I wouldn't spend a lot of engineering time on it, but I think perspective would help, and just kind of show some areas that could be detention. I think, to me, that's a big factor. I mean, I think that's the biggest, the setback. Because I really think you're gonna lose a building, but maybe not, we'll see. My other concern is, in a 30-foot, if you're compressing that landscaping into 30-foot, when those trees are mature, to get an opaque 6-foot barrier, are those trees gonna be, growing together and looking like a jungle in there?
Yeah.
That was my reason to ask about.
We've looked at that and we go for kind of an ornamental tree that doesn't grow super crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so there's some stuff that will stay its, intended size and not go too far over that. I don't want, spruce trees that are, dying out in 10 years.
Well, like I said originally, there is a need in our town, and I congratulate you guys for coming up with, a really nice looking building. Most of them, are cheap looking buildings that go up quick, but I too, in the residential area, those are the focus of my concerns. Some perspectives and maybe some landscape views would help. Help me.
Was anyone is that another board member?
Deanna is, do you have any concerns?
Deanna, do you have any feedback regarding the project?
Because or no?
I'm like a buster.
Well, or on you.
We are on
Oh,
you,
no.
yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you for
everything. So. Item 9, amendment to the urban renewal plan. City manager report.
Okay. So for a little bit of clarification purposes, we do have on the agenda tonight recommendation to council to approve the amendment. We are just looking for commission feedback. This is not something that typically planning and zoning reviews and makes a recommendation on. But why we're asking for feedback from you tonight is to ensure that the plan amendment aligns with the city's comp plan. So we are in the process of amending our urban renewal plan. We are required by law to do that anytime we add a new project to the plan, or we want to add property to the plan. So typically those two things are what require an amendment to the urban renewal plan. We are working on 3 parts of an amendment right now. So the first one is we are looking into offering the new Ace hardware store some tax increment finance incentives. The second thing we are amending for is the city council recently went through an analysis of how to fund the water tower project. They've decided to fund that project with an increase in water rates to the consumers, and then also using some tax increment financing to fund the project.
Ooh.
The third thing that we are amending for is we are needing to do some cleanup to the town square. So there's 5 buildings on the east side of the town square that are currently not in the city's urban renewal area number 2 district. We need to add those properties into the district. So the 2 items you're reviewing and discussing tonight are specific to adding property to the urban renewal plan. We need to add the water tower project to the urban renewal plan. The water tower is going to be built at the new regional park. But for continuity purposes, we are going to kind of extend our boundary in the plan up North 3rd Street, down Northside Drive, up North 7th Street, and then and capture the full park property. The other properties we need to add to the plan that you should discuss tonight and consider are adding those 5 businesses on the east side of the square. So you're adding a number of properties to the urban renewal plan, want to ensure that aligns with the city's comprehensive plan.
And what's the downside? What are the negatives to doing that? I don't know enough about how that operates.
There's really no negatives, but typically you guys are, kind of champions to ensure that we're following the city's comprehensive plan. We put this plan in place that has involved the community as a whole. We want to ensure that we're following the comprehensive plan.
Sure.
I have reviewed the comprehensive plan and I see no issues with the couple of projects we're proposing, but it might, a couple of years down the road, we may propose adding property to the plan that you disagree with. And that is why we go through this process.
And adding those 5 properties would allow them to make improvements through the TIP funding.
Yep. So we're offering a new program. The city council is offering a new program. It is called the Downtown Revitalization Incentive Support Program.
Okay.
I have to look that up every time.
Sure.
So we're offering funding to buildings on the square to make exterior improvements to their building. So the council adopted kind of a downtown facade program a couple of years ago of what they want the buildings to look like downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And we really felt that had to put some financial assistance if we were going to get some of the businesses to want to participate in that.
That's kind of what we talked about a couple of years ago. I remember that coming through.
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, this is kind of a minor issue, but we do need to add those properties to the urban renewal number 2 so that those businesses can participate.
I don't have any objections to this. Yeah. An explanation, our water rates are really high here.
Yeah.
I can't even water my lawn. Thank God it's rained all this time. It's ridiculous. You get $500 for a month for watering my lawn.
You're right.
And yeah, I know we need a new water tower because we have a lot of new properties going in. There's certainly a need for it. But that's also a lot of tax revenue that's coming in. Seems like that's where we ought to be taking it from. Not there, but I don't know enough about how this all works with the city and what they have to do. So, and it's like, we don't like them, we don't elect them. Well, that's pretty minor thing. So, yeah, city's really doing a good job. And I was involved a little bit with I've never seen the new facade that they decided on, which would be nice to see. I kind of think you sent that report out, but I wasn't quite sure really what they were sort of suggesting to tie it all together.
That's a good point. I don't think we were supposed, did we see a final copy of that? And we would talk through it.
I might have honestly, but I sure can't remember, I guess, at this point. But yeah, that's a real important thing to add them so they can do that. And I think that's great that the city's raising my water rates so they can improve their property. So it improves us. Okay.
I will send that out. The town square design standards document was something we talked about a few years ago, but I'll send it out again
Yeah.
for refresher.
Yeah, I can remember they were doing sketches and while we were talking, and they wanted to kind of come up with something that was a little more uniform. So,
Yeah, I think.
yeah. So no objections to the actual
No, I have no objection to it.
amendment to renewal plan?
Yeah, just a question about the hardware store. It's an oddity in our community in that it doesn't have a street access, or it doesn't have public street access to it. Would that prevent it or be an issue with it being included? I don't see that it would.
No, and that property's already in the urban renewal plan.
Okay.
So that part of the amendment you're not talking about tonight because that's not a property you need to add to the plan. But that property, as well as most of the commercial areas in Polk City, have been in the plan probably for a number of years. Somebody did a good job of thinking that through and making sure those were incorporated.
Okay, sounds like we support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item 10, reports and particulars. Council liaison.
It was kind of touched on a little bit, I think, through the discussion, but it wasn't brought really to the forefront. But we have recently, we're working with NAP to begin mass grading of the regional park and NAP's adjacent parcels. So that will be a significant cost savings to the city to be able to partner with NAP on that. And we are moving forward with that. So that's, that was kind of a big deal there that we were able to make that happen and save some money on that. So glad to have that moving forward. And then we continue to work through the CIP. We've got a lot to prioritize and we're getting close, I think, to working through it, but lots of discussion to be had. I know city staff puts in a lot of work on that, and we just unfortunately, we have a lot of needs here in this town, not only as we've grown, but as all of our buildings have needs, and not only space-wise, but age and a lot of other things there too. So it's been tough, but we've had 2 work sessions and we got another one coming up and we'll get there. But yeah, like I said, trying to prioritize.
We have a new city hall, obviously across the street. I think you're gonna move in soon. Could you refresh our memory of what you're doing, like with this building and the community center, for instance?
So the old community center is no more. That's taken up by the fire department with their remodel.
Oh,
this building,
that's really cool.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out that was kind of our first project that flew under the radar, I think, for most people, but our fire department was definitely deficient in their facilities. So we did a remodel on the interior there, made it a much more usable space. For a while too, we were, as we've grown and we have needs and coverage, we're able to have actual living quarters for the people that work overnight instead of cramming into a cot in the hallway if we can get somebody to do such a thing, So yeah, I would encourage you, if you haven't checked out the fire department, to go check it out.
This building here?
This building, that's part of our discussion too, of what we really want to do and the future of this building. So it's undecided at this point, but one of our discussion points and things to kind of figure out as we move forward.
Yeah. And then the police station, what happens to them?
Someday they'll move. It depends on when we can prioritize. Again, the plan is for them to go, on the next block there next to City Hall. We own the property there. And as we're planning out facilities, that is the plan, but debating the timing on that again with all the needs that we have here.
Okay. I mean, I've done police stations before, and this is ridiculous. I mean, it's cramped. They don't have an indoor place where they drive their police cars in, and they can have a holding cell, all sorts of stuff that the police station needs. You know, the fire department, you know, it's got needs too, so I understand that. The library, we've got a lot now that's rezoned so they can expand. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we've got the space, we've got the property, you know, but it's very expensive to build a new police station, to add on to the library. Public Works facility, they have needs out there too. So again, it's, our department heads do a really nice job of making do with what they have, and they've done that for a long time.
Yeah.
So a lot of respect to all of them for what they've done over the years, but they're all becoming needs, and we just got to figure out what the time horizon looks like for each of these pieces. Amongst all of the day-to-day things, the staffing, the equipment, all of that. But yeah, those buildings come with big price tags, and they all need them. So lots and lots of discussions on council's behalf here.
I just had a kind of a follow-up question on the city hall for the Four Seasons this weekend. Is it possible that parking lot's used? No. Okay. I was hoping we got a little more parking at least. The building, I'm sure, isn't.
Probably not. We want it to be available. There's a good chance the parking lot will be striped by the time of the Four Seasons Festival.
Okay. Well, it might be, but we don't know.
We should know
Just
more,
a-
yes, tomorrow, but more than likely, no.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
I wish I could say yes. I know.
It would be nice
It's
for Four
been-
Seasons. That's-
It would be.
And I wasn't here last time, but there was a note about the Leonard Senior Center. Is that, I was just curious, what's the update on that?
We really have no update
No
on that.
update. I'm just waiting for them to,
Yes.
okay. Okay, just curious.
Anything else on your update?
No.
Chelsea? No?
No, thank you.
Staff? Commission, for anything we haven't hit.
Just a quick question, since we were talking about maps grading and we had Big Creek Commons on the agenda. The section of Northwest Seventh that will be in the regional park, is that gonna be done when we do a bond issue, or how far out is that street until it would get pushed through?
That'd be part of the project, is for that street to be connected through
So
the
right
park.
after a bond issue is built.
Yep.
I can see that being a major expense.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Nope. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn?
Yep.
Second?
Second.
Yeah.
You overruled us.
I did.
We voted to stay longer, but you overruled us.
We're done.
And I said,
Oh, well.
hey, if we've done a decent time, I'll take you over to City Hall. We can do a walkthrough.
I don't know if anyone
So it's
knows
up to you
this.
two if you need to get home.
So when we built our building, we built it so that some.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis.
Yep, we'll see you guys.
See ya.
Can I go over to City Hall and
We own that middle
we,
lot.
do you know how to
So that
use
it's
it? Please show me how to use
I,
it.
this will be the first time I've
tried,
tried,
so
so we can learn together.
You'll look silly together. I'm gonna lock this building down. Great.
Okay, let me
Those
go.
keys are still on your desk.
Let me go put my stuff away.
They can stay there.
Yeah, we'll look in.